All right, last time we were working through all the levels of lesson 2. And in lesson 2, you started understanding how HTML works, that we're always using these symbols, and that the commands or the pieces of code are called tags. And the one we learned was with the letter P for a paragraph tag. All right. And as we were looking at those, and in fact, let me go back here um, just to remind you and show you what you were supposed to accomplish there in level or lesson number 2 is every single level has a certain number of pieces and parts to it. Some of them are singles. You'll notice there's always going to be one level that has a purple check mark on it. So for example, when we're looking at lesson 2 in the big picture, this one, level number 7, has the check mark on it, and that's the one that I will always look to put in the grade book. Okay, so on this one, what's happening is that we want it to look like a script, which means everybody's lines need to be separated and double spaced. When we type it in here, there's no formatting or any code in there, which is why it ends up looking like one big old blob. So your job was to find right before everybody's line, like here's Manny's line, then here's Patrick's line. And frankly, some of you did this, and I think it's a good strategy, is you went through and every time it said someone's name with the colon mark, you first of all separated it this way so it was a little easier to read. And the reason it's nice to do this, first of all, these enter signs don't do anything for what it's going to look like online, but it does make it a little neater when we're looking at the coding. So what you had to do here was put in a paragraph tag at the start of each line, /P. That's the closing paragraph tag. Now, look, that first line got separated out as its own paragraph. You have to do the same thing at the beginning and at the end of every single one of these lines. Now, just because it might look okay over here, you have to make sure all of our content is always contained within these some sort of programming tags. All right. Now, that's a good segue into what we're going to talk about today, because last time you were just kind of dipping your toe in to kind of get used to what HTML is. Today, we're doing the full on cannonball and splashing right on in there. Okay. So make sure and pause the video as we need to, but make sure everybody has something to write with and your journal. And those tubs are in the front of the classroom. So somebody please go and get those. Okay, so here is what I would like you to put in here, and we're going to jot down a number of items today. I'm going to get my writing tablet set up here and ready to go. So give me a second to make sure this gets connected. Alrighty, and here we go. Get my ink right here. Okay, so what we had talked about last time was content of a website, and then the structure of a website, and then we talked about HTML, and then we started to get into something called tags. So the next item I want to identify is what we call an element, and I'm not talking about science like the periodic table, but I'm talking specifically about an HTML element. And what this means is an element is a piece of a website. So I'm going to say piece of a website. And it could be a chunk of text, it could be an image, it could be a spot where there's a video or a piece of clip art, but it's a piece of a website and it starts and ends with a tag. So it's kind of starts and ends with some kind of tag. And remember last time we mentioned that these less than and greater than symbols are what identify tags in HTML language. Okay. Every single thing that you put in on a website has to be inside some sort of programming tag. Otherwise, even though it might look like it's working okay, as we start adding more and more things, it will start to cause errors. It won't load right. Your program won't run correctly. So that's why we want to get in the habit of making sure everything is contained inside tags. So, for example, when I look back at what we were doing on lesson 2, level 7, I right now on line 8 have this line with a starting paragraph tag right here and an ending paragraph tag right there. That's good, but all the rest of these lines are kind of invalid because we don't have that done. Make sure that you get this programmed correctly to separate everything on separate lines, okay? Now, getting back to kind of the big picture here, all right? What I want to do is start to look at, and you might even want to start a fresh page, but we're going to talk about tags today. All right. This is the one you've seen so far. This is a paragraph tag. So it's less than and greater than signs with a P in the middle. Okay. The closing one has a forward slash and a P. I noticed on some of yours, you're flip-flopping that. You're doing the letter P and then the forward slash. Be careful and make sure, even if it didn't throw an error code just yet, make sure the forward slash comes first. So this is called the paragraph, P-A-R-A. There we go. This is called the paragraph tag. Okay, the start and the end. And whatever you do, you put your content in between here. Okay, cool. What basically this does is it separates your content out. Now, we're going to learn some more today. And the first ones are what we're going to call the heading tags. Okay. The first one, lowercase h with the number 1. Okay. And again, you put some kind of content in between there. The closing tag, forward slash h1. What is this? This is a very large or the largest heading. It's big, it's bold. All right. That's the biggest one. Now, I am not going to, and I'm not planning on writing all of these. Basically, they come in different sizes, and there are 6 of them. Okay, so that's the largest heading. The next one is H2, blah, 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 blah. The closing part is a forward slash H2. And this one, we would say if this is the largest one, this is just kind of a large heading, not quite as big. Still bolded. Okay. This is a large heading. Cool beans. Blah, blah, blah. Continue on down. This keeps going. H3 is kind of a medium-sized heading. H4 starting to get small. H5 is getting pretty small. H6 is finally the last one. Now notice I just put dots here so we don't have to write H3, H4, H5. H6 is very, very tiny heading. So we're going to call this the smallest one. Okay. And as you begin to practice and work with these are the ones that they get really, really tiny. It's still bolded, but they're very small. Okay. All right. Now, what I want to do, lesson 3, I'm going to chop into kind of 2 sections. All right. So when you go into code.org today, here's what I want to make sure. In lesson number 2, make sure that you get this done. And remember last time I said after level 7 on 8, make sure you do A and B. Okay. Debugging are great tasks to help you learn the best about coding. Now on lesson 3, let's take a look at what we've got here. Okay. These first 4 levels, 1, 2, 3, and 4 all have to do with headings. Make sure you read the directions. There's kind of a quick check, kind of a semi-quiz one here. Okay. All right. So what I want you to do is this. The second half of this gets into lists, and I want to save that for next time. So to give people an opportunity to get caught up and such. So here's what I want you to do for this time. On lesson 3, you're going to do levels 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I also want you to go back on lesson number 1. If you recall, this is the one with these sample web pages like this. Level number 2 was a check-in survey. I want you to complete this survey as well. It's pretty short, just a few questions, but I would appreciate it if you would do that. It's anonymous, goes to code.org. I have nothing to do with it, but it's a great way for them to gather some information. Okay. So please go ahead. Go back and do this survey. A number of you still have to finish the worksheet for lesson 1. Make sure that you finish up lesson 2, and then I want you to go ahead on headings and lists and just do the first 4 levels for today. Okay. Use the rest of your time then wisely, and happy coding.